Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look at a grade 9 agricultural science revision lesson for the December 2023 examination. Let's proceed. Number 1 says, define open field farming. I'm going to read the answer now. Open field farming is farming outside without the provision of any form of protection to crops or the use of technology. All right, very important word, without the use of technology. So normally when open field farming is practiced, there's no use of technology that is involved. All right, it is a more traditional way of farming. There are not much solution oriented basis for this type of farming. So what happened to this type of farming, as you know, traditionally there will be no protection from too much sun, no protection from too much rain, no protection from pests and diseases. All right, and as you should know, this method is not climate resilient. What that means is, if it is raining too much, the crops are not protected from the rain. If there's too much drought, there's not enough water to give to the crops. So when we practice open field farming, there is a lot of challenges. Okay, it does not address the problems faced to the crops effectively. Alright, so for the exam, you need to at least know what open field farming is. Alright, let's proceed. Question number 2. State 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages of open field farming. Alright, so you already done these and you need to know at least this question. Alright, you need to know the advantages and disadvantages, at least 3 of them. The answers: number 1, crops are easily watered by rain. Yes. Number 2, mass production. Of course, when you plant outside traditionally, if you have a lot of land space, you can plant a lot of crop, especially one type of crop. All right, it can be there for a long period of time. And number 3, it is easy to start. Right, as you know, opposite to the control environment farming, where you use a lot of technology. Technology is very expensive. So one of the advantages of open field farming is that it is very easy to start. Now let's look at some of the disadvantages. I gave you 4 of them. All right. Number 1, crops are prone to fungal diseases caused by too much rain. So the rain is good, it can water crops, but if you have prolonged rain that is not stopping, then the crops, you can lose all your crops. Yes. And number 2, it is open to constant pest attack. Then you know you would have to use a lot of chemicals to combat this. So yes, so once you plant outside, there's no natural protection from pests, hence you would have to use a lot of chemical to combat these pest attack. And number 3 says fertilizer is easily leached into rivers and streams, causing eutrophication and water pollution. You see, when you farm outside and you use a fertilizer, these fertilizers, the nutrients can wash out easily out of the soil. And you know, once the fertilizer is washed out of the soil, there's no barrier in the soil to stop the fertilizer nutrients from reaching the rivers and the streams. So definitely, if you farm outside, nutrients and fertilizer will definitely reach the rivers and streams. That now will cause eutrophication, and eutrophication means when plants starting to grow, too much plants growing in the river, such as moss, right, morass. When that happen, all the animals will die, and the water will become stagnant, hence water pollution. And number 4, it is prone to predial larceny. Of course, you need to know what predial larceny is. Please remember it. It means stealing of agricultural produce. Now, there are many stealing, but predial larceny is only referred to when you have stealing of agricultural produce. So remember that term, very important. All right. Question number 3. Define controlled environment agriculture. Now, the acronym for that, CEA. All right. So remember CEA as well. And of course, let's look into the definition. All right. So controlled environment farming, controlled environment agriculture, CEA, is a technology-based approach towards production of food. All right, let me repeat. Controlled environment agriculture, CEA, is a technology-based approach towards the production of food. Very important. All right. This technology reduces the problems faced in agriculture, for example, climate change, weed growth, drought, extreme raining, soil contamination, pest and disease attack. Sorry, it's not soil contamination, but soil contact. All right, so what that is saying is that technology is involved in farming. So that is CEA. There's always the use of technology, and when technology is used, it always combating some problem. So, for example, weed growth. If you know weed is giving you a problem, then you buy ground cover, which is like a carpet. And some of these ground cover are made of plastic, so you would cover the soil and no weed grow. For drought, you could use a drip irrigation system, all right, and that now will supply the crops with water directly to the roots of the crop, thus preserving or conserving the water, preventing the wastage of water. Also, for example, the greenhouse, what the greenhouse will do is to protect the crops from extreme rainy weather. All right, so yes, that is the definition. Of course, CEA is climate resilient, meaning if climate change, the crops will be able to survive. So for example, if the rain is falling too much, the rain will not be able to damage the crop if you have them in a greenhouse. All right, so it is climate resilient. No matter if the climate change, the crops still will be able to grow properly. All right, question number 4. Name some technologies used for controlling environment agriculture, for controlled environment agriculture, CE. All right, some examples are 1. Hydroponics, aquaculture, road box, greenhouse, shade house, aquaponics. We will come to this. Of course, you need to know these, and you need to know what to draw and label them. More than one of them too. So remember, you have to know 2 or more. All right, question number 5. What is the purpose, or what is the aim of CEA? Remember, CEA, what is the meaning of CEA? What it stands for? It stands for Controlled Environment Agriculture. Let's look at the answer. The aim or objective of Controlled Environment Agriculture, CEA, is to provide and maintain optimal growing conditions throughout the development of the crops. So that is the aim. All right, is to provide and maintain optimal growing conditions throughout the development of the crop. All right, so as we said, if you have too much rain on the crops, what will happen? They will catch fungal diseases and the growth will slow down. But if you have them in a greenhouse, they are covered from rain. So if the rain is falling too heavy, they will grow and continue to grow without any problem. All Alright, the same thing with an hydroponics. The hydroponics, crops are constantly in water, hence they will always have water if you observe and make sure that the system is running. But the nutrients in the hydroponics, the fertilizer, once you put it in the hydroponics, it will not go out into the soil and leach into the rivers and streams. So all your nutrients will go to the crops. None of it will waste. So hydroponics, growing your crops in water, will limit that problem. All right, question number 6. Of course, records. It says, define farm records. Now, the answer is farm records are any documents written or typed that is collected and stored for future use. Now, if you take pictures, those are still records. If you take pictures of your farm, pictures of your crops, pictures of insects, those are still records. Alright. Any form of writing down, whether it be small detailed information that you don't consider important, whether you consider them to be very important, once you document information and you store them, you are doing record. Alright. Question number 7. State 5 types of records used on the farm. Number 1, you have the inventory. Number 2, you have the budget. And of course, as you know, for budget, you learned 3 of them: complete, enterprise, and partial. Number 3, we have income and expenditure. 4, programs and schedules. And 5, production records. For example, crop production, egg production record, broiler production, orchard production. So the production records, once you produce crops or animals and you keep a record of the amount, and if they increase or decrease, you are doing production record, right? Whether it be in crops or animals. So you have different types of production records. All right, we will focus on a few of them. So, of course, define inventory. Now, what you need to know, students, is that inventory the term is inventory. So do not add inventory record. So you would not say inventory record. You would just say inventory. All right. So don't put any record in. Just say it. So the inventory is a listing of all that the farms own. For example, St. Mary High School, it might own a 2-room poultry house, a slaughterhouse, 1 acre of land for crops, a greenhouse, right? All that the farm own. And of course, if you want to do, you can do an inventory for each enterprise or section or units. So of course, you can do an inventory for the 2-room. Just like your classroom, you can do an inventory for the classroom. You can do an inventory for the whole school, but you can also do an inventory for each classroom. Alright, question number 9. Define farm budgeting. Important. So a farm budget is a financial plan for the future. In other words, you make a plan for the future. In other words, students, very important that you understand the term. It is a documentation of items that you're going to purchase and how you're going to sell them. Alright? And how much pricing the cost for sell the income or the price you're going to sell them at. Now it is a plan. It doesn't mean you have carried out the plan. It is a plan. So you write down what you're going to do, how much money you're going to spend, and what you're going to spend it. But you don't. It doesn't come true as yet. So a budget is just a budget, a plan. Okay, you have not purchased anything yet. To do a budget, you just put a plan together. You have not purchased anything. It's just written down that you would like to purchase it. Of course, you can do a budget to see how much it will cost you to, for example, start a poultry business and how much income you'll gain from it. But it doesn't mean you actually go ahead and start a poultry business. Alright, it is a plan. Put a plan together, it must happen. Okay? Alright. There are three main types you have learned. You need to know them. Alright, or you need to understand them as well. So it is a complete, the enterprise, and partial. Of course, the complete, of course, say if you're doing a budget for the St. Mary High School or whichever farm you have, you would of course do it for all the units on the farm. So for example, St. Mary High School, you have a greenhouse, say on the one plan or budget, you would do the estimated cost and income for, like, for example, the greenhouse, the rabbitry, the goat house, the crop production unit, the layers, the rabbits that we have, and the crop plan. Alright, so you do, that's complete. Now the enterprise budget, you would pick out one of those and do a budget on it. So for example, the St. Mary High School, we have rabbits and goat and a greenhouse. You could say, alright, we're just going to pick out the rabbit and do a budget on the rabbit for next year. Alright, that is an enterprise. You just look at one component of the farm or one unit. With a partial budget, you would do a partial budget from a complete budget. So we'll get into that because you need to know that for the exam. Alright, the question. So question number 10 says differentiate between complete budget and partial budget. Alright, so let's go down. It says complete budget is a financial plan of all the enterprises on a farm. Notice it says all the enterprises, while a partial budget is a change in one item on a complete budget. Alright, so say for example you have done a complete budget for your farm. Say you have goats, you have chicken, and you have layers and farm. Say you have 3 units on the farm. You do a complete budget for it, but when you finish, you realize that, okay, I may want to use, I want to make a change in the feed. I'm going to buy less feed. Then you would do a budget for the feed alone and then add it to the complete budget. Now the budget that I do for the feed alone would be your partial budget. Alright, so let's go into some examples. Alright, so this is a complete budget. Say this is a complete budget for your farm. Alright, the complete budget. Say on the farm here we have broiler unit, a layer unit, and a goat unit. We have with 3 animals on the farm. Alright, this section here on a budget, of course, you show the income you will gain from each. Remember, you're just projecting. It's a plan. Based on experience, the farmer would know to write up a budget. Alright, so it's estimated that the total income to make next year is $305,000, and the expense. So a budget is made up of expense, income, and profit or loss. Alright, so this is the income part of 3 units, and this is, say, this now appears the expense of the 3 units. Alright, so we have medication and feed and labor. Alright, actually, correction here. This is a cost. These are costs, but these are variable costs. Fixed costs would be like the building or the equipment. So this up here should be an example of variable costs. Alright, say for example now we put together all the expense that we are going to spend for next year right here. Then from this now, to get your profit, we'll take away the expense from the expected income, the expected expense from the expected income, and that is 56,000. However, because I plan, that next year the price for things might change and this might change. Alright, But this is an example of a complete budget. Of course, the the um the money you're going to spend, which your expense, you're expected to spend. The money you're expected to get back from your sale, which is your income. Of course, it shows a profit, or if you will make a profit or a loss. So, for example, somebody want to go into farming, but they want to say you're going to look some sponsorship from someone to do a broiler or lay on a goat business, but you don't know how much money it will cost, or how much money you will make back within a year, or how much profit you will make. Then you will do a budget and send to them. They will look at this now and get a better idea of how much money they expect to spend, how much money the business expect to gain, and profit expected to gain. All right, so it's a plan. All right, the enterprise budget, as I showed you, as I explained, with this one you would not do you would just pick out one of the units. So for example, this is just done for the poultry unit, just for those chicken raised for meat. So of course, again, you would have the expenditure to set up for the poultry, and the income you expect to make from the poultry business, the chicken meat, the foot, the oval, and the neck. And of course, you have an expected profit. So remember, the budgets, they always, these two, the enterprise and the complete, always have these three components: the expenditure, the expected income, and the expected profit or loss. All right, the partial budget is done from the complete. So let's backtrack to the complete. So this is the complete. And remember, now we said that with a partial budget, we just look at if we need to make a change in one item of the complete budget, then you do a partial budget. So when you do a complete budget, it don't necessarily means you have to do a partial budget. Only if you the person who write up the budget, need to make a change. You don't go back and change up everything. So for instance, we purchase what? Medication, feed, and of course you have to pay somebody to work. So the examples point out that the item that will be changed is the labor, right? Just one of the item. So when you're doing a partial budget, you don't make changes or do a partial budget for more than one item at a time. If you have to do for labor and feed, then you just do over the whole project, the whole budget, sorry. But since it's just one item, labor, originally the business budget to employ 3 workers, but the change is that instead of doing 3 laborers, they're going to just use 2 workers instead. So that is the change. So of course, you look at the expense. Originally 3 laborers would cost 90,000, hence 2 laborers would cost 60,000, right? Hence the expenditure you would face $30,000 less. So you take away the 30,000 from the original total 249,000. Remember, this is coming from the complete budget. The 249,000, and you will leave back with 219,000. So this now will be your new expenditure, because you're not employing one, you're employing one less person. And then the income would be 30,000 more, because you have 30,000 less to spend. So the new income will be 335,000. Remember, the original income, total income, would be 305,000. But since you're going to add 30,000 to that, it will be 335,000. And of course, the profit will increase from 56,000 to 86,000, as you have seen here. So this now will be your new figure. You attach this to the complete budget. So that now is your partial budget. Of course, you need to know the difference between the two of them, the complete and the partial. All right, let's move to the next question. So the question number 11. Draw and label 2 control environment technology, agriculture technology. All right, so CEA technology. All right, as you said, there are more, but I'm just going to point out. So two of them are three. So this is the hydroponic system. Of course, with this technology, this can be easily placed in a greenhouse, and of course, the crops are grown in water, running water here. In this system, the plants are growing in running water. So up here is a pipe. The plants are placed in the pipe, and of course, the water with the nutrient is pumped through the system where the crops can get it and back to the container, whether it be a tank or a drum you're going to use. Alright, what will happen is that the nutrients, when you put the fertilizer here, none of this fertilizer will leave the system. None of it will waste to the environment. Alright, so all of that will prevent erosion, and the crops, the next advantage of this is that the crops will not be dirty. They will be clean. Alright, so let's look at the parts, because you would have to draw and label the parts. So of course, you have your container with water that you're going to pump the water from with the fertilizer. Alright, you need a water pump. It will go up to a tube where, or a stand with the pipes that the water, that the crops, that will hold the crops. So you'd have some little cups with soil and the crop, and these little cups now you place them in these holes in the pipe, and the water will run over the roots. And of course, this water will run back to the water tank here, which is the water reservoir. Alright, so that is basically the water pump, the water tank, the container for holding the plants, and the returning drain pipe back to the water tank. Alright, aquaponics. Now aquaponics, as you can see, this is similar to hydroponics. The only difference is that in this water tank you will have fish, and of course you would have to filter the water each time. Similar with the hydroponics, you filter the water, but you will not have any animal in this system. So with the aquaponics, it is the same thing, but with this one you have fish or aquatic animals. You could have crayfish, janga, air, but you will also need an air pump for the fish to get oxygen. Alright, so the next addition is air pump, basically. Alright, and last but not least, we have our greenhouse. Alright, so on the top you have UV plastic for the covering, so no water will go through this. And of course, you could use glass. On the side, you would have netted nets that air can actually go through. You have the antiviral serum, which is the best one to take out small insects. You have the black serum, but it will not take out a lot of the aphids or the white flies. And of course, you have a vent, because the greenhouse can get hot in summer. Here in Jamaica, greenhouse gets very hot, so you don't need a vent. Plus, I would recommend you lift the nets on the side of the greenhouse. That's in the summer. But in the winter, like now, December, nice. You don't have to do anything in terms of the heat. Of course, you have a next section, the entrance to enter the greenhouse. Very important. Here you have a footbath that you will dip your feet in to kill the germ before you go into the greenhouse. And you keep this door closed, because I don't want any insect going. Alright, so these are the main parts of the greenhouse. The top, which is UV plastic, the side, which is a mesh, the entrance where you have a footbath, and of course you have a vent. There are other technologies can go inside here, like your hydroponics, your aquaponics, your drip system, alright, and all of that. Alright, so the end. Please remember now to like and share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.